Today, I've actually had a couple of people ask me when they read or hear media reports about polling,
Right.
there's certain phrases or words that are used that they don't necessarily understand. So one is IVR, one is online polling, one is live interview. I guess the live interview is self-explanatory, the most
Right.
out of all of them. What does your firm use?
So we use IVR, which stands for Interactive Voice Recording, technology where we'll dial respondents at random. They pick up the phone, they hear a human voice, but it's a recording, and they ask the questions. They provide a prompt. Press 1 if you're going to vote for the Liberals. Press 2 if you're going to vote for the PCs, et cetera, et cetera. They push their button. They push whatever button they prefer, and that's how they complete a survey. That's different, of course, from live interviews where it is a live human voice doing it, and they actually have to record what the respondent actually says. This is merely pressing a button. They're more closely related to live interviews, and IVR are similar in the sense that they both use probability sampling, random sampling of the general population. We'll have a large list of phone numbers where we will randomly select some of them, randomly dial from that random selection, and build our sample that way. So they have that similarity. They differ. Why we prefer, we use all three modes, but we use IVR for elections for a few reasons. One reason why we don't use live interviews is because we find people are a lot more honest by simply pushing a button, right? We are concerned about a shy vote, especially for an undesirable candidate like, say, Donald Trump, right? People are more willing to press 1 and tell the truth about their preferences instead of saying, well, I'm voting for Donald Trump. It's hard to vocalize that sometimes, right? It's hard to, I mean, Donald Trump had a lot of baggage, and I think a lot of voters in the United States realized that, and they didn't want to admit that they were voting for a person who had that much social undesirable traits, right? So, but that's where they differ. But both modes, live interviews and IVR, differ in one key respect from online panels. Online panels don't use probability sampling. They recruit respondents, either giving them a small compensation or whatever. Hey, sign up for our panel, and we may be entered for a draw for a gift certificate or whatever. And those survey companies that use that online panel curate those respondents that way. It's not random.
So the online panels tend to be the same people responding?
They tend to be the same people. Now they try and build a panel of several thousand, right? But it's not done randomly. These are people who opt in to want to take these surveys, right? There are some methods to muddy the waters even more. There are some firms that will go online, use Google surveys, and get sampling that way. That has its limitations too. But the most common method is that online panel where they build their frame, as it's called. They build their pool of respondents by this non-random method. Now, we don't use it for our public releases because society is very complicated. I can think of 100 different ways where everyone differs, right? So trying to do that trying to build a selection that reflects society in that way and doing it in a non-random way is very difficult. We'd rather just have a large bowl or a large sack of wheat and just get a scoop and get that. We feel it's more representative. I could go on, but this is a short.
All right, and so your polls, your publicly released polls, they tend to be fairly large sample size, like over 2,000.
Right.
And if you're like me, you get to the bottom and it says this poll will be considered accurate within plus or minus 2%, 19 out of 20 times. I think I've seen in the online polls that's usually not there.
That's right, because it's not a random sampling.
Okay.
It's recommended that they cannot ascribe a margin of error. Right, a margin of error can only be attributed to a sample if it's done randomly. Right.
Okay.